I didn't come back to this place looking for answers. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Crisp envelope with my aunt's shaky handwriting, pulling me from my city apartment where everything fit neatly into boxes. Inheritance, it said. The old property up in the hills, the one I'd fled as a teen, chasing lights and noise that drowned out the quiet hurts. But now, with her gone, it was mine. Rundown acres tangled in weeds, a cabin sagging under years of neglect. The drive up hit me first. Dust kicking up from the overgrown gravel drive, mixing with the sharp scent of incoming rain, heavy and metallic. I gripped the wheel tighter. The realtor warned it'd take a week to assess, but the storm clouds gathering meant sharing that cramped space with the local caretaker, some woman who tended it like her own blood. As the cabin door creaked open under my knock, there she stood, broad-shouldered, calloused hands on her hips, eyes like weathered stone, guarding it all with a fierceness that already unraveled my polished plans. My city edges felt too sharp here, too exposed against her quiet claim. The hills rose steep around me as I drove deeper, storm-threatened skies pressing low, the gravel crunching under my tires like brittle bones. Each turn wound tighter, pulling me from the highway's hum into this forgotten stretch where cell signals faded and the air thickened with pine and earth. I hadn't been back in years, not since Aunt Clara's letters stopped making sense, her words slurring into pleas about the land holding secrets worth more than money. Now she was gone, and this inheritance dragged me here, a chain I couldn't sell off quick enough. The cabin came into view first, sagging porch steps leading to walls patched with mismatched boards, the roof dipping like it carried too many storms. Beyond it sprawled the land, acres of neglected fields choked with thistles, a creek silted over from neglect, fences leaning like drunks after a long night. It smelled of damp rot and wild growth, nothing like the sterile air of my city office. I parked, boots sinking into the mud as I stepped out, the first raindrops spotting my jacket. This place wasn't a home. It was a burden, something to liquidate so I could get back to my life, my routines that kept the past at bay. She appeared from the side of the barn, wiping her hands on worn jeans. Her flannel shirt rolled to the elbows, revealing forearms corded from years of work. Broad-shouldered, built solid like the oaks that dotted the hills, with calloused hands that spoke of hammers and soil rather than keyboards. Her eyes met mine, gray like weathered stone, sharp and unyielding, taking my measure in one glance. Hair pulled back in a loose braid, streaked with dust, she didn't smile. "You must be the niece," she said, voice low and steady, carrying the drawl of these parts. "Ellie," I replied, extending a hand. She took it briefly, her grip firm, rough against my softer palm. "And you are—" "Harper. Been caretaker here since Clara took sick." She nodded toward the cabin, not inviting, just stating fact. "Storm's coming. Best get inside before it hits." I followed her up the steps, the wood groaning underfoot, my bag slung over one shoulder. Inside, the air was cooler, laced with the scent of aged timber and faint wood smoke. But I wasn't here for settling in. "Look, Harper, I'm not staying long. Just a week to go through things, get the realtor's assessment, then it's on the market. Clara would have wanted it sold, moved on from." Her back stiffened as she hung her jacket on a hook. She turned slowly, those stone eyes narrowing. "Sold? This isn't some flip house, city girl. This land's been in your family generations. Clara made me promise to keep it whole. Legacy, she called it. Roots that run deeper than your quick cash." I bristled, my city polish cracking under her rural grit, that silence between her words heavy as the gathering clouds outside. Legacy? It's falling apart. Roof leaks, fences down. I don't have time for ghosts or sentiment. I'm fixing what I can and leaving. She crossed her arms, stance unmovable. "You think repairs are the issue. It's the heart of the place you're ignoring. Clara buried stories here, family truths tied to this soil, things outsiders like you wouldn't understand. I won't let you tear it up for a payout." Defensiveness rose in me, hot and sharp. I'd escaped this, very quiet, the way it amplified every unspoken ache, every judgment from small-town eyes that saw too much. Outsiders? This is my inheritance. I decide. And if you block me, I'll find a way around it. We stood there, the space between us charged, her silence a wall thicker than the cabin's logs. Thunder rumbled distant, rain starting to patter on the tin roof. Harper glanced out the window, jaw tight. Storm warnings say it's bad. Roads'll flood. You're stuck here a week, like it or not. And so am I. Won't leave the land to fend alone. I opened my mouth to argue, but the wind picked up, rattling the panes. No choice. The clash hung in the air as rain began in earnest, forcing us deeper into the dim room. Her protectiveness a barrier I hadn't expected to scale so soon. The rain hammered the roof as we stepped fully inside, the door thudding shut behind us like a final word. Dim light filtered through grimy windows, casting long shadows across the creaking floors, each board groaning under our weight as if protesting the intrusion. The air hung heavy with damp wood and earth, a scent that seeped into my clothes, my skin, reminding me how far I was from the city's dry, filtered breaths. One room. That's all it was. A single bed pushed against the far wall, its quilt faded and patched, flanked by a wood stove that Harper moved toward without a word. Her flannel shirts hung from nails on the walls, stiff with use, like barriers marking her territory in this shared cage. I dropped my bag by the door, scanning the space. A small table, 2 chairs scarred from years of scraping against the floor. Shelves lined with jars of preserves, labels peeling, and a lantern hanging from a beam, unlit. No escape, no private corner. "This is it?" I said, voice sharper than intended. "One bed. We're supposed to share that?" Harper didn't look up as she knelt by the stove, stacking kindling with practiced hands. "Storm's got the roads washed out by morning. Guest room's in the barn, leaks worse than this roof. Take the bed, I'll bunk on the floor." Her tone was flat, efficient, as if this was just another chore. I paced the narrow space, boots thudding softly, my impatience building like the wind outside. She rose, striking a match, the flame catching the dry twigs with a soft crackle. Soon, heat bloomed, chasing the chill, but it only amplified the closeness. I watched her move to the counter, pulling out a cast-iron skillet, chopping onions with a knife that looked older than the cabin. Quiet efficiency. That's what grated on me. No wasted motion, no chatter to fill the void. Just the steady rhythm of her work, silt still clinging to the edges of her boots, tracking faint trails across the floor. As she heated the stove, adding potatoes from a root cellar basket, I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "You always cook like this? Like it's a battlefield?" She glanced over, guarded, her eyes flicking away quick. "Food's food. No point fussing." The onion sizzled, releasing a sharp tang that mixed with the wood smoke, making my stomach twist with unexpected hunger. I hated how competent she seemed, how this place bent to her will without question. Resentment simmered, for her hold on the land, for the way she made my city haste feel clumsy, out of place. We ate at the table, bowls of stew steaming between us, spoons scraping in the quiet. Words were sparse, traded like ration supplies. "Pass the salt," she'd say, or I'd mutter about the realtor's delay. Her glances were careful, measuring, landing on me, then pulling back, as if she saw too much in the silt of my unease. I caught myself staring at the line of her jaw, the way a strand of hair escaped her braid, damp from the rain. Attraction stirred, unbidden, a warmth low in my chest that had nothing to do with the fire. I pushed it down, focusing on the resentment instead. How she clung to this crumbling legacy, blocking my clean break. Evening settled slow, the fire crackling low, casting flickering light on the walls. The air thickened with unspoken history, the weight of Clara's stories hanging between us like the storm's howl outside. I retreated to the bed, pulling the quilt tight, while Harper spread a blanket on the floor near the stove. Her breathing evened out quick, but sleep evaded me, the proximity pressing in. Night deepened, the storm raging, wind rattling the shutters. Thunder shook the foundations, drawing us closer in the shared discomfort, the single room shrinking around our silence. Morning broke gray and sodden. The storm's fury dulled to a steady drizzle that dripped from the eaves like reluctant tears. I stirred under the quilt, the air still thick with last night's damp, my body stiff from the unfamiliar bed. Harper was already up, her blanket folded neat by the stove, boots laced as she peered out the window. "Paps are a mess," she said, not turning. Branches down everywhere. Can't wait for the roads to clear if we want the fences standing. I rubbed sleep from my eyes, pulling on my jacket. No arguing this. The land needed tending. And with the isolation stretching our week, I'd rather move than stew in silence. We stepped out together, the mud sucking at our boots with each pull, cold and insistent, coating the soles in a gritty paste. The hills loomed mist-shrouded, the creek swollen and churning nearby, carrying silt downstream in lazy swirls. Harper handed me an axe from the porch, her calluses brushing my fingers brief. And we headed to the fallen oaks, their trunks splintered across the path like broken promises. We worked side by side, the drizzle turning to light rain that beaded on our skin. I swung the axe awkward at first, the blade biting wood with dull thuds, while she sawed through thicker limbs, her movements sure, efficient. Mud clung heavier as we dragged branches to the edge, our boots sinking deeper, pulling us off balance. Sweat built under my collar despite the chill, mixing with the rain to trickle down my back. Harper paused once, wiping her brow, and a story slipped from her then, quiet as the patter on leaves. Clara used to say this soil holds more than roots. Family buried letters here once, secrets from the old days. Women who loved quiet, away from town eyes. Tied to the land like veins. Her words hung, whispers against the wind, stirring something in me. I glanced at her, the rain darkening her braid, and felt the pull of those hidden threads. But I kept chopping, the labor a rhythm that matched my pulse. Later, at the fence line, we mended wire stretched taut between posts, our hands close over the pliers. Mine fumbled the twist. Hers steadied it, fingers brushing, rough against smooth, a spark of heat cutting the chill wind that whipped through the gaps. I froze for a beat, her breath visible in the air, close enough to taste the earth on it. She pulled back quick, eyes on the task, but the warmth lingered, uninvited. By midday, my arms ached, the rain easing but leaving everything slick. We paused near the barn, leaning on a post, and vulnerability cracked open in me, words spilling before I could stop them. I left this place running, I admitted, voice low over the drip of water. City swallowed the pains, family fights, feeling like I didn't fit the quiet, craved noise to drown it. But now, inheriting this, it drags it all up. I just want out, clean. She met my gaze then, her eyes softening a fraction, empathy flickering like sunlight through clouds. But it hardened quick, her jaw setting. Running again? This legacy isn't yours to dilute. Outsiders come, take what they want, leave the soil scarred. Clara trusted me to guard it, those secrets, the women who built quiet lives here. You sell and it's gone, watered down to nothing. Her pushback stung, fear lacing her words, but it only drew me closer in the shared wet. We finished the mend, sweat now mixing freely with rain, our shirts clinging, breaths coming warm in the narrowing space between us. Her flannel brushed my arm as we stepped back, the contact electric, unspoken. The wind died to a hush, leaving us raw, the land's pull mirroring the tension coiling tight. Afternoon brought us back to the cabin, soaked and spent, the scent of wet earth trailing us inside. Harper stoked the stove while I shook off my jacket, revelations brewing slow over the shared meal she set to simmer. Potatoes and venison from the stores, steam rising like questions we couldn't yet voice. The stew simmered low on the stove, filling the cabin with the rich scent of herbs and meat, steam curling up to fog the single window. We sat at the table, bowls in hand, the rain a steady drum outside. Harper ate slow, methodical, her spoon scraping the ceramic like a secret she wasn't ready to share. I watched her across the scarred wood, the way her braid fell loose now, strands clinging to her neck from the damp. Quiet moments like this stretched between us, heavy but not empty. She set her bowl aside, pulling a torn flannel from a hook, her own, ripped at the seam from the morning's work. Thread and needle appeared from a tin box, her fingers steady as she pushed the point through fabric, stitching tight, even pulls. But I saw the tremble there, faint, in the way her hand paused mid-stitch, the needle hovering like it carried more weight than cloth. Silence wrapped us then, thicker than the wool on my lap. I traced the grain of the table with my thumb, letting my eyes drift to her hands again. Calluses ridged her palms, thick from years of gripping tools, guarding this place alone through winters that bit deep and summers that baked the soil to dust. No rings, no softness, just the mark of solitude, etched like the hills outside. She'd been here when Clara faded, tending the land while family scattered, her life woven into the fences and fields. I shifted in my chair, the wood creaking under me, breaking the hush. "Those hands," I said soft, not quite a question. "They've held this place together." "Alone?" She didn't look up, needle flashing once more. "Someone had to." The words landed flat, but her fingers stilled, the tremble returning. I leaned forward, elbows on the table, the warmth from the stove pressing at my back. Vulnerability tugged at me, pulling words I'd buried under city noise. I get that pull, in a way. Left here young, chasing something louder. Relationships there? They burned fast, fizzled in the rush. Women who wanted flash, not depth. Left me craving roots I didn't know how to plant. This inheritance? It's stirring that ache, making me see what I ran from. Her needle paused fully now, eyes lifting to mine, guarded but cracking at the edges. She set the shirt aside, folding it neat, her calluses rasping against the fabric. "Roots aren't always kind," she said, voice low, measured. "Small towns like this, they hide you, but they watch too. Lost loves here, ones that stayed secret. Women who loved quiet, away from judging eyes, building lives in the shadows of barns and creeks. Clara knew some of that, whispers of her own heart tied to the land. I guard it all, because letting go means erasing them." Her words hung, hints of her own guarded life slipping through, a queer thread woven into the legacy she protected. Empathy swelled in me, mixing with the steam from our bowls, but it twisted quick into tension. I pushed my chair back, standing abrupt. "That's why you fight the sale? Because of ghosts? This place is crumbling, Harper. Selling it frees us both, me from the weight, you from the chain. I can't stay tied here pretending it's home." She rose too, slow, her chair scraping loud against the floor. "Freeze me? This isn't a chain, it's blood. Your aunt trusted me with the stories buried in that soil. Loves that couldn't breathe in town lights. You sell to outsiders, and it's diluted. Gone. City girl running again, leaving scars deeper than any storm." Voices rose then. Mine sharp with the city's edge, hers rough with the land's grit. "Scars? You're the one clinging, blocking my choice." The argument echoed off the walls, rain picking up outside, mirroring the heat in my chest. She stepped closer, pointing to the window, her face flushed. "Choice? This legacy's bigger than your escape. Without it, we're both lost, floating like silt in that creek." The space between us shrank, words hanging hot. But as our breaths sank, ragged, her eyes lingered longer on mine, gray depths pulling me in. I reached for the salt shaker, our fingers brushed. Accidental, but electric. A jolt that stilled us both. Heat bloomed where skin met, unspoken, her tremble echoing in my palm. She pulled back first, but slow, the shift subtle, charged. Dusk fell heavy, the storm peaking with a crack of thunder that shook the panes. Power flickered once, twice, then died, trapping us fully in the dim, the lantern's glow our only light as shadows deepened. The power cut plunged us into dark, the storm's roar filling the sudden void. Harper moved quick, rummaging in a drawer for matches, her silhouette sharp against the window's faint glow. She lit the single lantern on the table, flame steadying to cast a warm circle that pushed back the chill creeping through the cracks. Shadows danced on the log walls, twisting like unspoken thoughts, the air heavy with wood smoke from the dying fire, thick and clinging to our clothes. I shivered, pulling my knees up on the chair, the cold seeping from the floorboards despite the quilt draped over my lap. She added logs to the stove, the crackle breaking the howl outside, then settled on the floor nearby, back against the bed frame, close enough that her presence cut the draft. The lantern light played across her face, softening the hard lines of her jaw, highlighting the braid, loosened further now, strands framing her neck. Forced closeness, this tiny space, one light, her body heat radiating like a barrier against the night. I could feel it, warm against my leg where our spaces overlapped, a quiet invasion that made my skin prickle. No room to retreat, the storm trapping us here, breath sinking in the dim. Harper stared at the flame, her hands clasped loose in her lap. The silence stretched, broken only by thunder rumbling low. "This role," she said finally, voice low, deliberate. "Caretaker." It started as a favor to Clara years back, when her hands shook too much for the fences. But it became duty, family, even if not by blood. Protecting hidden histories buried in this land. Women like her, like the ones before, who found safety here. Loves that couldn't show in town, queer lives stitched into the soil, letters under floorboards, marks on trees. I guard them because losing the place means they fade, erased by progress, by folks who don't see the weight. Her words landed soft, revelations pulled from deep, the lantern flickering as if echoing her vulnerability. I leaned forward, elbows on knees, the wood smoke curling between us. Empathy tugged, but so did my own pull, fears rising like the creek outside. "I get that weight, in pieces," I admitted, my voice barely above the rain. "This inheritance, it's no gift. It's a burden, dragging me back to pains I buried. Clara's letters hinted at secrets, but to me it's chains. City life let me breathe, away from the quiet that amplifies every doubt. Now it's all surfacing, making me question if selling is running or surviving. I fear it'll swallow me whole, leave me rooted here, lost." She turned her head, eyes meeting mine in the low light, gray depths reflecting the flame. No judgment there, just a quiet holding, her shoulder brushing the bed's edge near my foot. The air felt smaller, charged, our confessions hanging like the smoke. Attraction built slow, unbidden. My gaze dropped to her lips, parted slightly in thought, full and chapped from the wind. Heart thudding in my chest, loud as the thunder rolling closer, a rhythm that matched the pulse in my throat. She shifted, her knee grazing mine. Accidental but lingering. Heat blooming where flannel met skin. I reached out, hesitant, my fingers finding her hand in the shadows. Calluses rough under my palm, but I traced a scar there. Jagged line across her knuckle, old and faded, from some long ago mishap with wire or axe. Skin warm, veins standing out like the roots she protected. My touch light, circling the ridge slow. She didn't pull away, breath catching soft, her fingers curling just enough to hold. Unspoken want simmered, electric in the touch, the lantern's glow warming her face as eyes locked on mine. Tension coiled low, sensual pull in the way her thumb brushed back, tentative, the air thickening with it, wood smoke and rain and something deeper. We sat like that, hands linked loose, the storm's fury peaking outside. Thunder rolled heavy, shaking the walls, lightning flashing brief through the window. Her free hand rested on her knee, close to mine, the proximity a quiet storm of its own. No words now, just the simmer, the thud of my heart echoing hers. Morning would bring flooded paths, the creek overflowed, roads impassable, extending our isolation, binding us tighter in the dim. Day 3 dawned with the creek's roar louder than the fading storm, water bloated and muddy, silt clogging its banks like a wound packed with dirt. I woke to Harper already outside, her silhouette bent over a shovel by the window's light. The isolation stretched, roads still flooded, the nearest town a distant blur on the map. No escape, just this land pulling us deeper. She handed me gloves at the door, her fingers rough against mine. "Creek's blocked. If we don't clear it, the fields drown come spring." No choice. We trudged down the slope, boots plunging into saturated earth, the air sharp with wet soil and crushed grass. The silt was thick, a gray-brown paste that sucked at the shovel blade, resisting every thrust. We worked the bank in tandem, scooping heavy loads, backs bending in rhythm. Mine aching first, a burn from shoulders to spine, hers steady as the hills. Sweat beaded despite the chill, trickling under my shirt, mixing with the mud that flecked our legs. Harper dug deeper, her breaths even, flannel darkening at the pits. I paused once, wiping my face, the creek's churn mocking our effort. A clump gave way under my shovel, splattering mud across her cheek in a dark streak. She froze, then swiped at it slow, her lips twitching. City girl aiming to redecorate? I laughed, sharp and unexpected, the sound cutting the labor's grind. Mud flew back from her shovel in retaliation, hitting my boot, and she smirked, dry, understated, like the land itself. Fair warning, this soil fight's dirty. Her humor eased something in me, cracking my guarded walls, the tension from nights before softening in the shared mess. We kept at it, laughter bubbling low when another splatter landed true, her eyes crinkling at the corners, rare warmth breaking through. As the sun climbed, we shifted to the upper bank, shoulders bumping in the narrow space, her flannel brushing my arm, coarse weave against skin, warmth lingering like a promise. Each contact sent a quiet jolt, her solidity grounding me amid the ache. I felt her nearness in every swing, the rhythm syncing our breaths, mud caking our hands until they looked alike, marked by the work. By late afternoon, the creek ran freer, but exhaustion settled deep. We leaned on shovels, backs throbbing, the air cooling as shadows lengthened. Harper stared at the water, her voice dropping soft. Years like this, solo. Protecting the land. Fences, storms, the quiet that eats at you. Loneliness creeps in, thick as this silt. Clara was the last tie, but even she faded. Now it's just me and the echoes, holding on alone. Her admission hung raw in the open air, vulnerability stripping her armor. Empathy swelled in my chest, seeing her not as obstacle, but woman, shaped by the same soil that weighed on me. You don't have to, I said, stepping closer, mud flaking from my gloves. Help beyond repairs. I see it now, the weight you carry. Let me share it, not just for the sale, but because this place, you, deserve more than guarding alone. She met my eyes, gray depths softening, a nod, faint but real. The offer bridged us, her hand brushing mine on the shovel handle, lingering, warm. Evening brought us inside, the cabin dim with gathering dusk. Harper lit the lantern, its glow soft on the walls, and fetched a basin of creek water, warmed over the stove. She rolled her sleeves, dipping a cloth, washing the grime from her arms. Bare now, skin pale beneath the tan, muscles shifting under freckles and faint scars. Vulnerability there, in the curve of her elbow, the way water trailed slow, intimate in the light. I watched, heart thudding, the sight pulling at me deeper, unspoken. Night 4 fell quiet, the fire dying low in the stove, embers glowing faint. Confessions turned personal then, words spilling easy in the hush, binding us closer as shadows merged. Storm's remnants clung to morning, the air thick with damp rot seeping through the walls. I woke to the steady plink of water hitting the floorboards, a dark stain spreading near the bed like spilled ink. The roof had split in the night, a seam giving way under the onslaught, rain tracing cold paths down the timber. Harper stirred beside me on the floor, her blanket twisted, eyes snapping open at the sound. She cursed low, rolling to her feet, fetching a bucket from under the sink with quick steps. Tin couldn't hold it all. Patch now or rot sets in deeper. We moved fast, the chill biting sharper through the breach, floor slick underfoot. Outside, the wind had stilled, but rain drummed soft on the leaves, persistent as doubt. Harper hauled tar paper from the barn, rolls heavy and slick in my arms, while I grabbed the hammer and nails, the latter wobbling on wet ground outside the cabin. Up close, the damage gaped. Shingles curled back, gaps letting gray sky peek through. My hands shook climbing the rungs, slick with dew, heart thudding against the drop below. Inside again, the leak quickened, drops falling faster, soaking the rug in dark pools. Harper spread a tarp across the floor, but water found edges, pooling cold. "Blanket," she said, pulling a thick wool one from the shelf. rough, smelling of lanolin and faint smoke. We huddled under it on the floor near the leak, shoulders pressed tight in the dim space, the fabric heavy, trapping our warmth against the draft. Her body heat radiated immediate, solid frame leaning in as I held the paper steady over the seam. She nailed it down, arms brushing mine in the confined reach, wool scratching soft at our necks. Rain pattered above, syncing with our breaths, close and ragged. The work halted as thunder grumbled far off. Tension built, my words spilling first, edged with the week's frustration. This leak proves it, Harper. The place is crumbling under its own weight. Sell it. Let someone with resources fix it right. I can't keep pouring time, heart, into something that's already half gone. Clara wouldn't want me chained here. She lowered the hammer, her breath sharp in the hush. Eyes flashed in the low light filtering through the patch. Crumbling? This is the land breathing, fighting like always. Clara's line, women who weathered floods, hid their truths from town's pitchfork stares. Sell it, and you erase them. The pain of that? It's bone deep, cuts like this rain. Her voice cracked, face twisting raw, as if the words tore fresh wounds. I've mended alone, night after night, storms flooding while the world forgot. You take it away, you gut everything I've held. Rawness hit me, her pain spilling like the drops beside us. No anger left in me, just the pull to close the gap. I reached, drawing her into embrace, arms around her broad back under the blanket. First real touch without barbs, her body stiff, then yielding, trembling against my chest. Tears wet my shoulder, hot through my shirt, her breath hitching silent in the wool's fold. In that hush, queer threads wove between us. I know hidden aches, I whispered, hand stroking her braid, loose now. City bars let me chase desires open, women without shame's weight. But here, as a kid, judgments chased me. Whispers about Clara's friends, eyes narrowing at soft touches in the yard. Ran to forget the fear of being seen wrong. She nodded into my neck, voice muffled, rough. Town clings worse, gossip like silt, sticking forever. Lost a love to it once, her family yanking her after rumors spread. Clara sheltered me then, this land our hollow, safe from prying. Desires buried, but they root deep, push through anyway. Stories shared, vulnerabilities bare, the blanket cocooning us against the drum of rain. Stakes sharpened then, feelings tangled beyond the dispute, her hold on the legacy mirroring the draw on my heart. Not just property, us, woven in want and history. Rain drummed relentless on the roof, her breath warm against my neck, pulse thudding where chests met, wool rough, the leak's drip a steady counterpoint. Thunder faded slow, calm settling after the gale. We pulled apart, gradual, blanket slipping, dawn's quiet light gray through the patched seam. Decisions loomed in the hush, air shifted, heavy with what surfaced. Dawn's light strengthened, filtering through the patched roof in pale shafts that warmed the damp floor. The leak had slowed to faint drips, the cabin holding against the last of the rain. Harper and I rose quiet, the wool blanket folded between us like a shared secret. Final days unfolded different now, our rhythms sinking in the work, no longer clashing but weaving, hands moving as one across the land. We started with the barn door, hinges rested loose from endless winds. I held the warped wood steady while she drove nails, hammer thudding even. Our palms met brief on the handle, mine steadying hers, callous to skin, no pull away. Sweat beaded on her temple as we finished, and I wiped it, slow, thumb lingering on her cheek, tracing the faint line of a scar there. The touch settled natural, like lives merging in the grit, her breath hitching soft under my finger. Midday turned us to the creek bank, reinforcing edges with stones from the shallows. Water murmured clearer now, silt settled low, but banks crumbled soft underfoot. Harper knelt first, stacking rocks in a low wall, her braid falling forward over her shoulder. I joined, knees sinking into cool mud, passing stones hand to hand, smooth, water-worn, cold at first, then warming in our grip. Fingers laced brief over one heavy piece to lift it, heat spreading from the contact, slow and sure, her pulse under my skin. "This could last," she said, voice low over the flow. Her eyes lifted to mine, gray softened by the light. Not just the wall. Us, the land holding steady. I nodded, mud caking my nails, the labor grounding deeper. Yeah, blending what we carry, your roots deep in the soil, my wandering pulling back. No more running. Staying feels right now. Evening settled gold over the hills, air sweet with pine after the storms. We sat on the porch steps, cornbread crumbling between us, crumbs scattering on the worn wood. Heart thudding steady, words rose unbidden in the hush. "Harper, it's not just the land drawing me. You. Your quiet strength. The way you guard without breaking." Attraction simmered since that first clash, stirring low. Like roots I didn't know I needed, craving your touch in this grit. She turned, eyes holding mine in the fading light. Her hand found mine on the step, fingers threading warm, rough against soft. Felt it too. Your fire against my steady. Scares me, but it fits. Been mending alone so long, nights heavy with the quiet. Didn't think I'd want this pull, this warmth in the cold. She leaned in, morning's memory lingering, but now dusk's glow wrapped us. Lips brushed mine, tentative, then sure, soft, tasting of earth and salt from the day's work. I cupped her face, thumb tracing her jaw, the kiss deepening slow, breaths mingling quiet. Warmth built in the press, her hand sliding to my collarbone, lips following light, pressing there reverent. Shiver ran through me, fingers threading her braid, loosening it to dark waves falling free. Her touch trailed my arm, calluses gentle now, exploring lines we'd drawn careful. PG, tender. Heat coiling low in shared breaths, bodies close but honoring the slow build. We pulled back, foreheads touching. Legacy shifted in the after hush. "We'll preserve it," I whispered. "Together. Your histories with my fresh eyes, staying, not selling. Roots here, with you, blending our worlds." She nodded, tears pricking but edged with light. "Yeah, us holding it now." Emotional payoff settled deep. Her guarded ache met my seeking, walls fallen to find anchor in each other. Vulnerability wrapped in empathy, not forced. Chosen. The week wound down, roads clearing, city calling faint like an old echo. But tension eased, bond solid. Nights planned over fences mended joint, lives merging beyond the cabin's walls. We packed slow that last morning, my bag lighter in spirit, if not weight. Her touch grounded, hand on my back as we stepped out. Cabin farewell came gentle, door standing open one last time. Hills rolling endless under the sky. The door shut behind us with a soft click, her hand firm in mine under the open sky, clouds parting to blue. Unexpected love's pull grounded my wandering heart, roots taking hold in silt and shared silence. If this resonated, subscribe for more authentic Sapphic tales. Comment your own hidden legacies.